First and foremost, Tom Kurvers joining us for the inaugural Bulldog Coffee Break. I'm going to make sure I thank our sponsor here, the Duluth Coffee Company. Tom will be sending you a bag of this as well as a little Duluth Coffee Company tumbler. So great coffee, and thank you to them for supporting this. Welcome everyone to join us today for the inaugural. We're very fortunate to have Tom Kurvers, a great men's hockey Bulldog, former student athlete who's had a wonderful career in hockey, joining us. And the format today is really, I'm going to be asking Tom some questions, somewhat of an interview, and Tom's going to share these thoughts. Before we get in, I've got a couple of ground rules, but of course wanted to share our well wishes with everyone. I hope that you're healthy, you're happy, you're hanging in there, you're staying safe and doing well through these challenging times, and that this can be a little bit of a respite for you and a distraction as we have a lot of stress and challenges in the world today. The ground rules: basically enjoy the content. It's a conversation between Mr. Kurvers and I. Feel free to submit some questions via the chat. We'll get to those towards the end. And with that, I just want to welcome you, Tom, and say thank you for joining us today. I look forward to our conversation. I've been fortunate to get to know you well, and you've been so supportive of the Bulldogs and what we're trying to do. And I know you're a very proud alum, so thank you and welcome, and great to see you.
Thanks, Josh. It's a big part of a life in the game, really. The base of my good fortune to be in hockey all these years was the 4 years in Duluth. And what's gone on in the last more than 10 years, 12 or 14 years of success at different levels and exciting moments. It's been great. I feel like I'm part of the team, especially when we win. And it was sad to see the season cut off this year because the chances were good for another appearance there and another chase for another championship.
Well, Tom, I think that we've enjoyed having you as part of this, and it's great to have you here today. The pride of Bloomington. You've been with the Bulldogs in so many ways, but why don't we rewind a little bit to your time and coming up to Duluth? Who else recruited you, and what was it like to come up to Duluth back in the early 80s?
Well, right. One guy that was really important in my hockey career pre-Duluth, and then at the start, the first 2 years in Duluth, a fellow named Scott Carlston. For the committed Bulldog fans, Scott was a captain, co-captain, I guess, in '82, and had 200 points in a stellar college career there. We had been high school teammates. He was 2 years ahead of me at Jefferson High School, and I got the chance to play on the varsity as a sophomore at Jefferson High School in 1977, and sophomore in high school, and was with the team. And he was the guy that made sure I had a ride to and from practice and to the games. He just made sure I was taken care of. I was 15 years old and, in over my head in high school hockey, and Scott looked after me, big brother-ish. 2 years later, he went on to Duluth in '78, started a strong career there. And 2 years later, I was being recruited, and I'd say the teams that recruited me the most were three teams: Wisconsin, RPI, and Wisconsin River Falls. And I'll tell the quick story on that. So it was flattering. Bob Johnson came to the house. I'm sorry, and Duluth as well. Those four teams. That noise. I'm doing my laundry here as we go, Josh. So Bob Johnson came to the house and made his pitch. The coach at RPI was a guy named, I forget his name now, but they won the championship in '85. So he was putting together what turned out to be a good team. And I wasn't too interested in going out east. And Wisconsin River Falls wanted me, and a coach there was George Gwozdecki, who ended up having a brilliant coaching career and winning titles. And he kept telling me I was a Division III player, and I kept telling him I was a Division I player. So I had an argument with him at that point. And then we worked together in Tampa years later. We laughed about it. So, I came down to Duluth and Wisconsin, really, and Duluth, became my choice. And so then, Scott Carlston had played 2 years, so he kind of looked after me as I entered into the college scene too. So I hold him in high regard because of what he did for me on entry and a couple important spots along my playing career. And then getting up to Duluth, we didn't have a run of success the whole 4 years I was there. The first 2 years we struggled, and there was a coaching change in spring of '82, and Mike Sertich took over, who had been the assistant coach and who had been part of my recruiting to Duluth, and things changed dramatically. We became a competitive team, and we became a more disciplined group of hockey players at that point. And then, so we had some modest success in '82, '83, and we made the NCAA tournament for the first time. That was a big deal. And we lost in a 2-game series in Providence, which turns around to bite me now because my coach in Iowa, the team I run for the Wild, is Tim Army, who played on the '82, '83 Providence Friars.
Yep.
So he gives me the gears every once in a while on that loss. And I just turn around and blame it on our goalie, Bob Mason, who led in everything in that series. So it just keeps going in a circle when you start down this path. Then in '83, '84, we really improved again. We built on some success into a really good season and a really good second half of the season. We got hot in the second half of the season, and we were a real good team from Christmas time until right before the national tournament. We weren't as good in the national tournament as we had been the rest of the second half, but we got to the final game and lost that game in 4 overtimes, and at the time it was devastating. But over time, I kind of look at it like it was a pretty cool way to cap off 4 years. We improved dramatically. We were there. In my mind, the best team in Duluth that I saw until the recent years was the '84, '85 team. After I stepped away, they only lost 7 games all year. They were a powerhouse, and they lost in triple overtime. So things were going the right direction in those years. And in hindsight, the best year I had in hockey, the best friends I have in hockey, the guys that I keep in touch with the most are guys from the '83, '84 team. We have a glue and a bond that we like when cell phones and texting, and so it's not social media as much as we just kind of keep it closed and together. We have a tight group of guys. We went through a real common experience in those 2 years, '82, '83, '83, '84. And we had a lot of laughs along the way, and we have a lot more laughs today. So again, those 4 years were the 4 years I'd like to have back, and spend time with those guys on a daily basis again would be something you'd pay a big price to do. So yeah, my time in Duluth was awesome. It wasn't just hockey, but that's who I keep in touch with, the guys that I was on the team with.
Oh, I love it. I think that really speaks to the bonds and the reason we play sports to learn about leadership and how to navigate adversity in life. And those are really important tools, how to be good teammates and knowing when to lead, knowing when to follow. Before we get too far into it, the group that's with us today really cares about you, and they're aware of some health challenges that you've had. How about a quick update? I'm hearing good things, but I know these folks would love to know how you're doing.
Yeah, my health situation has gone really well. I was very fortunate. I was diagnosed with lung cancer, stage 3, January of 2019. And I was matched up with an oral chemo protocol. As I understand it, somewhere around 3% of cancers have research and development and a specific chemo in place that combats, what I have in lung cancer, my particular mutation of lung cancer, and it's been extraordinary. So I take a chemo pill every morning, and it's just kind of held everything in check. Nothing's moved, nothing's grown. In fact, the tumor has shrunk.
Great.
I feel good. I'm active. I'm as busy as you need to be with 13 and 12-year-old at home, and the only side effects I have is a little bit of fatigue, but day to day, there's a new normal. Maybe I'm 90% or 80% of capacity of what I once was, but it doesn't knock me down and out. So I'm very fortunate. There's a great community of people that care, from the Bulldog community to the overall hockey world that I live in, to family and friends. And when you are the subject or the recipient of all the well wishes, it's strength, and it provides strength day to day, and it provides strength and hope long term. So it's a real deal, but we're doing really well.
Well, thrilled to hear that. And I remember we were together in Arizona at a holiday tournament right before your diagnosis, and you had let me know that you just weren't feeling quite yourself. And it's been great to see the Bulldog folks and your former teammates and people really rally around you. And as you know, my wife's a cancer survivor, hit the 10-year mark not that long ago, and we're blessed to have a little boy, and it's great to be on the backside, and we're all thrilled. I'm sure I speak for the group to say we're thrilled that you're doing so well, and we're here for you, and hopefully it stays on that great trajectory.
Thank you.
So I'm also going to insert a couple questions. I think, as you're probably aware, TK, we do exit interviews when our student athletes leave. Myself or one of our assistant or associate ADs ask those questions. So I think it might be fun. Just a few years after you left, I'm going to throw some of those in there as we go. But before we get to that, especially from your perspective and your prominent role in hockey as assistant general manager of the Wild in the NHL, tell us what the view of Bulldog men's hockey is in the professional ranks today.
Well, I can tell you in the, what it's been 36 years since I left Duluth. I think I got that right. I can still do math. It has evolved to elite status. It was a known entity. It was a respectable name and a respectable competitive team. And then, starting in, I'd say starting before 2011 and the championship, I'd say, we were just talking about it. I don't know what year it was when Alex Stalock put on the show at Mariucci and had the playoff run that sort of defined that certain team, and they nearly made the NCAA tournament. There was a build going on, and with the win in 2011 and since, and the success and the consistent championship caliber of the program, I would say for a long time, 20 years or so, it was a good program, but it wasn't in the top 5 or top 8 or top 10 consistently. And now it's just basically become the program, maybe North Dakota with its embedded tradition, and those two teams, those two programs seem to have the greatest amount of awareness and respect, and it's been earned. And North Dakota over a longer time period, but UMD in the last run of time in the hockey world that I work in, it's a point of pride now. It was something before, it just existed. Now it's really cool to have that in your hip pocket when you're talking to a Badger, you're talking to a fighting Sioux, now fighting Dove. When you're talking to these guys about business stuff, you get to throw it in. Yeah. And it's as if we all won all these championships. Just when we talk with the guys from '84, we talk like we are 3-time national champions, right? And that's just how we carry ourselves now. It's been transferred back to us in a really great way, and we enjoy the ride.
We certainly consider you national champions from the athletic department perspective, particularly all that you did as a player and that you've done as a committed, loyal alum in the world of hockey. So, it's, as you mentioned that, I think back to when a couple of years ago, the men's team beat Bowling Green in overtime in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I got almost as many text messages from former players because they were, even though the 11 and the 18 championships had happened, there were still a few demons to be exercised, and knocking Bowling Green off in that comeback fashion. I think we keep taking care of some of those legacies from the past. So good stuff.
Yeah, you got to even the scorecard. Every kid at the playground's got to even the scorecard. So you guys are doing it in a big way.
I love it. In the totality of your hockey career, 11 professional years, of course, the Hobie Baker Award, and your run with UMD, and since. Give me tell the group about a couple of those special moments that you had as you went through your career, and what maybe meant the most to you personally.
Well, I would say 3 things in my career that are highlights that matter. I think making the high school tournament my senior year. We had been to the region finals my sophomore year and junior year, lost to Rochester John Marshall in 78 and 79. And my senior year, we beat Rochester Mayo to arrive at the state tournament. So we qualified for the state tournament the one year, my senior year. We didn't win the championship. We lost to John Casey and Grand Rapids in the semifinals, and they won the tournament. But that was 10 years of playing with that same group of guys, and that was a big deal for all of us, and still is. Like, I don't keep in touch with those guys nearly like I do with my Duluth teammates from '84. But there's a bond there. There's something there. And then the guys in '81, the juniors in my senior class from high school, they won the state championship with a lesser team. They simply didn't have as good a team, but they were tournament ready, and they won the tournament. So there's some pride in that. Then in '84, playing, having the run in Duluth, and the difference between our run in spring of '84 than maybe any of the three championships, or even count the Chicago defeat in the final, might be different than what these guys experience now, because the format's changed. And sure. So we happened to play our series at home to clinch the WCHA crown, which we hadn't won before. So that was one weekend of celebration. Then we played our first playoff series at home, and we won that playoff series. Actually beat Wisconsin 9-0 in the second of a 2-game series. So I get to throw that at those. I know a few of those guys on that team. And then we played this series at Minnesota because our rink was booked for the boat show. And we played North Dakota in the WCHA final, 2-game total goals. And the city of Duluth drove down 35. And the building they filled up a 7,200 seat building on the road with Bulldog fans. It was unreal coming out on the ice in Gophers Arena, same colors, but our fans, it was our home series, and we're playing North Dakota on Gophers ice, and we had a good weekend there too. I think we won one of those 2 games 8-1. We were really on our game. So then we played Clarkson at home again in Duluth, 2-game total goal series. So in this run of success and winning league championship and winning playoff championship, and then having an NCAA 2-game series at home, we were home for this month, except for the weekend in Minneapolis. Right. So every step of the way, the whole community celebrated with us. And then we went to Lake Placid, and it was a memorable loss, but we were there to the bitter end. And so it was 5 weeks of everyone saw it, everyone was part of it. Now now this tournament goes to St. Paul for the Final 5. It just doesn't lay out the same way. Sure. And in a lot of ways, that 5 weeks, it wasn't just the final game. It was that 5 weeks of we were building and building and building, and it was exciting, and people had stuff on their garage doors, and people had flags out of their cars. It was first time. It was really a neat run. And then 2 years later, I was in Montreal, and we won the Stanley Cup. So, you look at things, if you grow up in Minnesota, you want to play in that tournament, I got a chance to do that. Went to Duluth, had that experience with now my best friends in hockey. Went to Montreal, very lucky, very fortunate, got drafted by the right team, joined a really good team, and that's the year that Steve Smith shot the puck off Grant Fear's ankle into his own net, and Edmonton got knocked out. Edmonton was the best team in the league. We got our break. We won the cup. So those 3 things are clearly the things that stand out. And then the Hobey Baker Award sits there as something really special, and I'm proud of it. But like every other Hobey Baker winner that lost the championship game, and there have been a number of guys that have been in the same shoes as me, I would trade that award for that title. Yeah. Then and now, because I don't think it would change anything. I mean, we'd still be the same buddies doing the same things to each other on the phone and making the same jokes, but we'd have that together. I would trade that in a minute. The Hobey Baker is it's been really something special over the years, but that's our Hobey Baker. That's not right. I wasn't the best player on our team. Bill Watson was our best player. that I was in the right place at the right time to be granted that award. It falls in behind those other three things that I just mentioned.
You touched on it a little bit, but one of the first things that I learned about when I came to Duluth, and my familiarity with the Bulldogs, frankly, came from getting beat by them while I was at my grad school alma mater and previous employer, Notre Dame, in 2011. We had a very short trip visit to St. Paul that year. But you touched on what this that 84, 80, 83, 84, 45 team meant to Duluth. What did it mean to you as a player to have the kind of support that the community really rallied around that team at a tough time in America and a tough time in Duluth?
Yeah, as I understand it, and I could be off the reservation on this, but the steel industry is down in Pittsburgh and in Youngstown, and Duluth's the port to send the taconite from the range to create the steel. And Duluth economy and Duluth city was in a tough spot because the steel industry was in a tough spot. And it's different than Minneapolis. It's different than Chicago. Things weren't going very well there. The town was in trouble. And we offered this glimpse of hope and enjoyment and on a sort of a regular basis, especially in that 5 weeks. And it really did connect people to a common cause. We didn't know it at the time. We didn't know. We were told this later. We just knew that we'd go to our games and the people would stay after these wins. They wouldn't leave the building. We'd go back out on the ice and sort of encore it. You're 20 years old. Like it's not normal, but the environment created that, and we were embraced by the community. And I think we gave back, but we were college kids. I mean, giving back, we were nice to people, but we were just college kids in the middle of it, enjoying this run. So I look back on it with great pride. And now, we added something significant, but we were just playing the game and trying to win, and it was going our way.
So you also touched on this piece, with Scott Perunovich being the most recent recipient of the Hobey Baker Award and moving that up to what I would call a 2-goal lead now on some of the other institutions out there. But you're certainly a key piece of that legacy, and you talk about the statement of Bulldog men's hockey and where the program is at these days and how it's viewed. In addition to the championships and the success that's now spanning more decades, having the most Hobey Baker Award winners in Division I men's ice hockey is a huge deal. What did that award mean to you personally? I know you kind of joked with me that you get a lot of congratulations for something you didn't contribute to, but to be a piece of something that makes this program, your program, different, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's noticed out there. And the 6 of us are extremely proud of being the recipients. Remember, you got Brett Hull, who was nominated and not a recipient. The 6 of us can be, enjoy that. Brett Hull's Brett Hull. That's a Hall of Famer. Norm McIver was up for the award 3 times. These are players who had great careers who aren't included in the 6. Sure. There are a number of guys like that, whether it's timing or situation and how it all works out. We're all real proud of the individual, prestige of the award, but we're more proud of the fact that it funnels into this UMD as a premier institution in hockey, in college hockey, and well-known and well-regarded, and it kind of fits Duluth. Duluth's kind of a tough town. It's a tough, rugged terrain. That lake is cold. It stays cold up there. You got to be rugged to be part of living in Duluth. And the hockey team has sort of been that. We had a tough team in '84. We had some real talented players, and we had some real tough guys. Jim Toninato, Mark Ondekon, Jim Johnson, Dan May. These are tough guys. They're still tough. And that's, so we had this blend of guys that, whatever you got, we'll take it on. That's kind of how you have to be in Duluth. It fits the profile of Duluth, just like North Dakota. It's the only thing to do in Grand Forks. Well, they make it work that way. Duluth's such a unique environment, such a unique setting, and it fits hockey really well. So this Hobey Baker thing carries on, and I get a pat on the back because Scott Perunovich was such a good player for 3 years. Well, I'll take it, but I had nothing. I haven't even met him, firsthand. I can't go talk to him. He's St. Louis property. And so, it's been great to watch. It's been great to be remembered. The guy that compares to Scott Perunovich for me it's not me. It's Norm. It's Norm McIver. It's 3-time All-American. It's glue guy right away upon entry with a winning team. It's style of play is more similar. It's a catalyst kind of thing, but not a selfish catalyst, sort of a hidden weapon. Norm, like Scott would go up and almost look like a forward. Norm actually played forward on the power play in those years. And
wow.
So there's more of a comparable to Norm's legacy there than mine, in my opinion, except now Scott is a recipient of the award, and so we're connected. But yeah, we've met, the 5 of us, and now 6. We have to get another picture because we added one. That picture of 5 of us, that's a point of pride. And
for sure.
I think we all share the same guideline outlook on what that thing's about. That's about the guys I played with.
Yeah, no, it's well said, Tom. And I've been thinking as soon as we can get this COVID stuff behind us, finding a way to get the 6 of you together will be pretty special. And I know the schedules will be hard, but Coach Sandlin and I have talked about that and making it a priority. I'm going to take a question here quickly because one of our faculty members is on the road, but wanted to ask you something. And this is Dr. Steve Castleberry from the business school, who I would just want to add that you've been very gracious when he's brought his marketing class down to Wild Games. You've given him your time and just another way that you've shown so much support for UMD well beyond the athletic department. So thank you for that. But Dr. Castleberry wants to know, what do you see as the biggest challenge in the hockey world today?
Well, right facing us right now is the NHL came out with the phase 2 and phase 3 and eventually phase 4 of return to play. Phase 2 is voluntary off-ice workouts, which could include a component of on-ice. Phase 3 would be training camp. And phase 4 is return to play in a modified playoff system. And when they announced it, there was all kinds of hope. And then the 24-page document came out on how to abide by the protocol set forth by the league. And it's going to take a lot of habit changing from everybody involved in order to implement this, make sure we stay as safe as possible. Yeah. So we don't have that down pat yet. We're working with our guys in the training room and our staff on how in the world are we going to put all this into place and make it run smooth as it can run right away. So we're just trying to get to voluntary off-ice workouts.
Right.
I know the playoffs sit out there as the goal to get there, and to play for the cup. And our players, there's a lot of reservation and uncertainty right now. We have to prove to them that it's a safe environment in phase 2, which is 6 at a time off-ice workouts, before we can proceed to anything that to get to a training camp. So we're working on that right now. The big problem is going to be the business of the game. Depends on fans in the seats, and that's going to be compromised, at least for a while. So I'm not involved on the business decision-making. I'm not on the ticket sales department. Our contribution on the hockey side is simply have a good competitive team so people want to come and watch us. We're working hard on that. It's going to be an interesting dynamic with our sport and all pro sports on how this stuff rolls out when you get past Korean baseball and some of the sports that are trying to be out front that are not the big 4 or the big event type stuff. We're trying, but we got to be cautious each step of the way.
Again, TK, well said. I think us in the college space are in a similar position. We're watching things very closely. We're watching pro sports. Us at our level, being in Division I, Division II hybrid, we're watching some schools literally tomorrow in the Big Ten are starting to bring back athletes in football, and later this month the basketball. So we're watching it closely. We've also got lengthy documents we're trying to find ways to comply with, and of course health and safety is the priority. So we're looking at things to like your 6 off-ice workout limit. We're looking at having our student athletes work out only with those that they live with, and finding creative ways to try to get through this time. But the brief sidebar, the challenge is that so often, you and I have talked about this, sports gets society through challenges and helps be a distraction and helps facilitate positive social change. And right now, unfortunately, the best thing sports can do is hit pause. And I think that's hard. And there's only so many times you can rewatch old games, and that's fun, but I think that's a stopgap. So we all look forward to getting back to it, and we're watching the NHL closely, and appreciate the approach that you all have. So I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. I'm going to throw a couple questions that I literally have been asking our hockey, men's and women's hockey student athletes as I personally do their exit interviews. So the first one I'm going to ask is, what advice would you give the 18, 19-year-old Tom Kurvers driving up I-35 from Bloomington to come to Duluth as a freshman on the men's hockey team?
Enjoy the ride. And it's about, I'll quote Mike Sertich, it's the journey, it's not the destination. And I try to teach my 13 and 12-year-old boys, it's your attitude. You know, we're on the golf course, it's your next shot. This is supposed to be hard. School's supposed to be challenging. Athletics are supposed to be competitive and take everything you have to be successful. And part of being better is failing. So most guys that are 18 and they have a scholarship and they're going up to Duluth to play hockey or driving down from Thunder Bay to play hockey have been pretty successful their whole way. They haven't faced a whole bunch of being cut from a team, not being on the power play, not getting to play on a Friday night. That stuff makes you grow. It challenges you, and you need the challenge. So whether it's a professor in a tough class, or the hockey coach, or trying to get along with three guys from in different parts of the world that you're rooming with that you didn't really have a say in it, those challenges are there, and they all allow you. There's something good about those 4 years of college. Yeah. And I can compare that to a guy that's my age that I played with in the NHL who played 3 years of junior hockey in the Western Hockey League. And they look at the college thing like they missed out on something in life. And that's not me telling them they should have gone to college. That's them saying, man, I wish I'd have done that. That sounds like you guys really enjoyed that. And there's something about it, whether you're at Harvard, whether you're at Notre Dame, whether you're in Duluth, you grow up in those 4 years, and it shapes you.
Yeah, I think that, again, you know, your insights are really appreciated and powerful. And I think a lot of us think back to some of the strongest relationships that we have. And literally before we started chatting today, I was texting with my college roommate from my undergrad, who's an assistant athletic director at Boston College. And we're talking about how we're managing different challenges today. So those enduring relationships from those 4 years are special. And I see the closeness of so many of our student athletes, and athletes that ended up marrying each other, and athletes that have connected with these lifelong bonds, and the group texts and those types of things. It's really, really cool. Okay. If there was one thing you could change about your time here as a student athlete, what would that be?
Well, I kind of bailed on my original business concentration major. I got started in that department, and I didn't push myself much my first year of school, and really into my sophomore year, I wasn't pushing the throttle very hard on the schooling part of it. And I made a decision that I wanted to finish in my 4 years. I really didn't have the NHL sitting as my outlet. I was uncertain. I had been drafted, but I didn't have a certain future in the NHL. So I made a decision my sophomore year to change majors and to finish in 4 years. And then I accelerated my classes, and I finished in 4 years. I was proud of that. But I did go back to grad school. I went back and went back to St. Thomas to get an MBA, because I had dropped off on the business stuff in Duluth. And Duluth's got a wonderful business program. So if I did it differently, I would have stuck it out. Dan Fishback was a guy a year older than me, a captain when I was a junior. And he was the best student on our team. And it's because he was organized, and he knew how to manage his time. And I learned a lot from him in those years that we were together up there. Kind of followed his footsteps, but then I didn't push myself hard enough. So I probably look back on it and said, gut it out and stay on the program that you chose at the start. I ended up going back to finish that part of my education anyway. So that's what I would have done differently. As far as choosing roommates, I would have probably decided to X out Bill Grillo from my freshman apartment just because there's too much there. And that would have been an easy change, but Bill and I are still good friends. So that was a good start for me.
Well, you'd be proud. And I think we just announced this within the last week, but we had the all-time student athlete high average GPA at a 3.44 this past semester. And the all-athlete, all-team GPA for the year was a 3.36. So just really impressive stuff going on by the Bulldog student athletes. And I know that makes you proud, and glad that you knuckled down and got that MBA. Congrats. That's cool.
Yeah, it was a good experience doing that. And the only other thing is now when I see someone with some St. Thomas stuff on, I can just walk, hey, I'm a Tommy. I can throw that at them too. It doesn't have the same level of pride that my Bulldog roots have, but sure. It was a good program.
Well, you may be an alum of 2 Division I hockey programs soon here. We'll see what happens with them. The best part of your Bulldog experience as a student athlete?
When I started playing there, I had been recruited to Duluth, but I hadn't seen them play a game. So I hadn't been in the arena for a big hockey game. It was the recognition as a freshman that this is a big deal up here. This is Friday and Saturday nights. We weren't very good, and they had a good team in '78, and then we weren't very good my freshman year, '80-'81. We weren't very good my sophomore year, '81-'82. People kept coming to the games. Like, the building may not have been sold out for a Northern Michigan series, but it was sold out for Minnesota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, Denver. The long-term rivalry weekends, which were most of them in that old WCHA, the place was full, and it was a big deal. And you had that feeling, whether it was at the games on the weekends or the fact that there were 3 TV stations in town, and they were at our practices every day. We got treatment in a bigger way than we knew at the time. Probably more coverage than the Gophers down the road, who were, having success and having more success than us at the time. They're in a big city, and there's all kinds of sports on the menu for the local news media to cover. We got it every day. And so that part of it made you realize, hey, this is the thing, we're getting treated really well here. And you had a responsibility to work hard and to live up to that. Now, for our class, and it took a couple of years for us to grab onto that and have success, but we did. So there's a learning experience there. It's the way Duluth embraces people that is, I haven't gone to play in pro cities. I've played in some really cool places: Montreal, New York, LA, Tokyo. You don't get in big cities. You don't get embraced the same way you do. We were treated so well by the community. We were meeting people in the community as we were meeting other students because we were playing hockey, and it was really a good environment to spend your 4 years of college.
No, I couldn't agree more, and it's interesting you brought up the men's team and their title loss, but it's a little easier to swallow after 2 championships in Chicago up against Denver. But if you recall, that Frozen Four was hosted by my grad alma mater, Notre Dame, and when I left there to come up to Duluth, I had some colleagues that were sort of confused. Why would you leave a place of the stature that they have? And I think after seeing our program, our fans go to Chicago, have the performance that the team did, seeing thousands of people come down from Duluth, I had former colleagues say to me, I understand why you went up there. I understand that is a place that is a great place, is a special place, is a place that is super supportive and committed to athletic programs and to this program in particular. So I can empathize with your thoughts and feelings there. And I think you encapsulated it well. Okay. This is kind of usually a fun one, but what was the worst part about being a Bulldog?
Yeah, I got an easy answer for you. So I mentioned who I was recruited by: Wisconsin, RPI, and Wisconsin Stevens Point. Let's just cross out Stevens Point. I wasn't considering them, but it's a funny story. RPI, I didn't want to go out east, so really it's Wisconsin and Duluth for me. And I choose Duluth, and we're not very good. And Wisconsin wins the national title in 1981 in Duluth. Okay, that's interesting. They were, maybe I would have chosen Wisconsin, Then in 82, we're not very good. And Wisconsin goes to the national championship game and loses. So, okay, they're pretty good. Maybe I could have gone there and been on a really good team. Then in 82, 83, we get better, and Wisconsin wins the national championship game in North Dakota. Okay, this is getting old. And then, so there was my big regret for 3 years. Like, wow, maybe I didn't make the right choice here. Maybe I should have been a Badger. Maybe. Then in 83, 84, we played them 8 times that year, and we beat them all 8 times.
Oh, wow.
And the last game we beat them in 83, 84 was playoff series in Duluth, first round WCHA playoff series, 2-game total goals. We won the first night 6-3, and the second night 9-0.
Oh, goodness.
So we just wiped them out. So now John Johansson was my age. He went to Wisconsin. Would have been teammates had I chosen to go to Wisconsin. He wins 2 national titles, plays in a third. When I see John Johansson these days, and he's a terrific guy and we're good friends, the only thing he says to me is, "You guys beat us 8 in a row." Like it couldn't possibly happen. And I look at him, I go, "You won 2 national championships. You got nothing to complain about, pal."
That's pretty good.
I'd say that did I have a regret? Yeah, maybe. But at the end of it, at the end of 3 years, yeah, maybe. At the end of 4 years, none at all. None at all.
I love it. That's a great story. One question from the chat I want to get back to. What was the Hobie presentation like for you as a young person thrust into a really high profile event?
You might not expect this answer, but I'll go down this path. So we're in Lake Placid, and we play our game on Thursday. At the time, they played a Thursday night semi, Friday night semi, and championship Saturday night. We drew the Thursday night game with North Dakota. So we win that game in overtime. Remember, we had beaten them 8-1 in a playoff series 2 weeks earlier, and we beat them, like, things got tight. We weren't playing our absolute best hockey in Lake Placid, let's put it that way. But we were still playing fine, and we beat them in overtime to qualify for the championship game. So now you're into your routine, and Friday night, Bowling Green is going to play Michigan State in the other semifinal. So after the game on Thursday night, we come in and we're celebrating the locker room, overtime win. Bill Watson scores a goal, and I think Sandlin was trying to cover him. I keep hearing that, and I've seen the pictures, but I can't really pin it on our coach. But so we score, we win, we celebrate. And in the locker room, Mike Sertic says, and, on top of that, that I had been named the Hobie Baker winner. Well, you don't go from that elation to another level with that news.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
like, kind of like, oh, yeah, great. Like, we're already on cloud 9. We're going to play in the national championship game. It wasn't like I got more and more overjoyed. I was already as high as I could be with our teammates. And so kind of hit me. I'm like, oh, okay. So what bothered me about it was this. The next day we have practice at whatever time our practice was scheduled for. I would say it was probably 2 o'clock in the afternoon after the 2 teams playing that night would get iced. So we had a practice schedule. Stay on your rhythm, go to practice. You're going to play your last college game, championship game the next day. And they make the Hobie Baker announcement at 2 o'clock.
Oh, geez.
I can't practice with my teammates, the last practice I'll ever have. And the coach is with me.
Yeah.
So we have a practice. I mean, when the coach isn't there, the assistant principal doesn't manage the school the same way. I don't care who they are. It's
Sure.
not the same. The head coach isn't there. So that practice couldn't have been the same as it might have been. I'm not there. I'm feeling like, what am I doing here in a suit when I should be out there skating with my teammates? I mean, I'm down in the locker room, they're getting dressed, and I got a suit on, and I'm going upstairs for this presentation. Now, the presentation itself was great. My family was there. It was very, very good. The guys that practice hurried off the ice, showered. They were all there by the end of the presentation. They were all with me. I have pictures of that. It was all good. But I felt like the normal steps to playing in a championship game, the rug kind of got pulled on me. Yeah. And to be so honored is so great, but it's such the wrong day to be told you're the best player in the country, but oh, by the way, you got to play one more game. And I didn't process it as well as maybe some guys have been awarded the award and then gone on to win the championship. I don't think I played my best game in the final. I'm not blaming it on that, but I did lose my sequence of preparation. Sure. My last college game. So it's an odd sort of take on it, and I'm not upset about it. I wish they did it differently. I wish I wish there was a different way, but they continue to do it. It's the best day for the publicity of the award. I understand all that. It just puts the recipient in a tough spot should he be playing the next night in the national championship game. And that's kind of was on my mind a long time ago. I don't know if I ever verbalized it till recently, but there's a rub there, but that goes away. I just, if we win, then I never think of this stuff. Sure. And it wasn't in the way, and we almost won. We were close.
Well, it's tough to take a captain and a head coach away from and I understand one practice doesn't necessarily make a season, but it's about process and rhythm, and Coach Sandlin talks about process a lot with the team. When I hear it when I'm in the locker room after wins and losses, and about the process and getting to the end, and certainly something that we've seen in the last decade, a program that is generally playing its best hockey at the end of the season. So I had not heard that story before, and that's a tough situation to be in.
Yeah, it was heavy. It was heavy. It wasn't. I wasn't in pain. I wasn't. Sure. Really upset. It was heavy. You don't need that. You need your mind clear. You're going to play the biggest game of your life. So.
Well, as we wrap up here, a huge, sincere thank you for your time, Tom. You've just, in so many ways, as I think I tried to articulate throughout our conversation today, you've supported the program through what you did as a student athlete. You've supported the program as a proud alum. You've helped out our business school when you've had the opportunity to. You've been incredibly supportive of myself. I can remember my first year, I was in Philly for the Frozen Four and having conversations with you and Norm McIver on the concourse, and getting to know you and helping me drive some initiatives forward, helping our department drive some initiatives forward for this program, for your program, and for the department. And I'm thrilled that your team has been able to give you some extra reasons to be a proud Bulldog and maybe grind some other people's gears from time to time, particularly in the hockey space. Thrilled that you're doing so well with your health, and we're honored to have someone in professional hockey in a leadership position like yours. So thank you a ton for your time today. Before I forget, I want to thank our friends at the Duluth Coffee Company for sponsoring this, and we've got a bag of coffee and a tumbler on its way to you, Tom. And for our guests today, keep an eye on your email. We're going to do a bit of a door prize for some coffee as well. So reply to the email that you get, and you'll be automatically entered to win some great Duluth coffee. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to you, Tom, and hope folks enjoyed this chat. And we'll see you down the road. Any parting thoughts, Mr. Kurvers?
I just say thanks to you, Josh. Our friendship is out in front of all this other stuff. You've been a terrific addition to the Duluth athletics scene, and your guidance has helped shape things in more than just hockey. The program's in good hands, and we're proud of you, and we're all Bulldogs.
Appreciate that. Well, as always, I'll wrap it up with my favorite phrase: go Bulldogs. Take care, everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe. Talk to you soon. Bye now.
Bye now.